All right, guys. Well, welcome into the Calling All Brides podcast. I'm your host, Joe Cirillo, with our other host,
DJ Michael.
All right, and we have got a fabulous show for you today.
Yes, sir.
We are talking DJs and bands.
Wow, DJ versus band.
DJ versus
Which
bands.
do you go with?
Are you going out swinging? What are we doing here?
You know where my heart is on this one.
I think I know where his heart is on this
right.
one. But we got some good pros and cons for both of these here. So we are talking entertainment, and like we said, DJ versus band. So we're going to start off with bands. Let's talk about some of the pros about bands. So the number one thing about a band is live entertainment.
Yeah, and as a DJ, I love live entertainment. What I do is easy, but when somebody's a professional musician and they got to get up and sing and play an instrument, I love live entertainment. So there's nothing like that feeling you get with the band's live. It's an interactive kind of thing. It's a whole different vibe than a DJ. It really is.
It really is. Who doesn't love going to concerts, right?
Oh, man, yeah.
Go to concerts all the time. And what do you do at a concert? You sing along, you scream,
Exactly.
and that's what people love about bands, is that they can sit there right there and sing and be a part of that.
Yeah, jump on stage and do a karaoke song with them maybe. If that's been prearranged with the band, how cool would that be if the bride's a singer, they back her up and she's got her own band backing her up? That'd be very cool.
Oh yeah, and it makes for great video too. When you're doing, guitar shots and drum shots. But like you said, I've had brides come up there and on the microphone and all that. What great photos and videos does that make?
Yeah, and some bands are show bands. They actually put on like a little show when they perform with the choreographed steps and all that. That's kind of cool, right? I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some when you talk about bands, is it local bands, national bands? What are we talking about?
I think mainly for weddings, you're going to get what they call wedding bands. And those are the bands that specialize in the kind of music you're going to hear at a wedding. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of, no matter where you live, there's always that one or two local bands that you love. Here where we live, there's a band called Tokyo Joe. Huge following, right? You get them at your wedding, everybody's going to come. So I don't know. I just think, the national bands, I've heard of people hiring the Commodores. Believe it or not, you got the money, they'll come, right? But it's mainly like local, they play in the local pubs and bars and festivals, that kind of thing, yeah.
That's one thing you hit, when you said the money for the Commodores.
Yeah.
That's the thing about a band too, is, when we're talking about pros and cons, you're probably going to be able to get a DJ quite a bit cheaper than you are a band.
Yeah, bands can be pretty pricey because you got 5, 6, 8 members that got to be paid. So of course, yeah.
Yep, a lot more equipment, that they're going to bring.
Yeah.
One thing to think about too about a band is actually the setup time.
Yeah, and the space they require, right?
Yeah.
DJs get like a 4x4, and the band, that's not going to handle one speaker.
Yeah, and with a lot of venues, they only give you a limited time to get in and get out, right?
That's
Because they're the bride and groom is contracted just for a certain time frame. So if you got that big setup or big breakdown, you got to factor that in.
As a DJ, I'm pretty quick, even to be an old man. I get out in 30 minutes, and I get the stink eye sometimes. Like, would you hurry up? And I'm like, dear God, it's just me.
Yeah.
You imagine a band. And at that, you said that, I was at a hotel one night and I did a wedding reception and a really cool band was doing one. And I wrapped up my set and packed up. Man, it was an hour and a half. They're still wrapping cords and packing up. I'm like, they don't get paid that much money to do that, man.
No. So let's talk a little bit about, we just talked about some pros, live entertainment. It's fun. People singing, dancing, having a good time, makes great photos and all that kind of good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about some of the cons, So I think the first one that comes to mind for me is song selection. I'm a big music person and I love to hear, Vanilla Ice. I'm a big Ice Ice Baby fan.
Pitbull.
Maybe it resemble just a little bit with the bald head, just a little bit,
Right.
So I like that big variety.
Right.
And, I kind of feel like the band doesn't always have that.
Yeah, they can only know so many songs. They got to rehearse them and they got to learn them. So their music selection is going to be very limited. Plus, have you ever heard a white guy sing Michael Jackson? It just doesn't do it, right? So you got to interview them and see what they sing, but at the same time, they're not going to take requests.
Oh, that's a good point. So song selection, that's a pretty big one for me.
Yeah.
I think we already kind of talked a little bit about cost wise, it's going to be pretty expensive. We talked about space wise. What else do we have? That as far as a con.
One thing that I think of is, and then again being a DJ, is I take extensive dance floor lighting, and bands light themselves up, but I've never seen a band light the dance floor up. So that's something you got to think about. People are dancing, having a good time. There's no lights on them. right? So I could be wrong, but the bands I've seen don't like the dance floor.
Yeah, I'd say majority of them don't.
No.
You know, they don't think about that because that's not their specialty. You know,
Right.
They don't invest too much into that. You know, because a lot of honestly, some places they play, you know, venues and things that bigger venues and things that they play besides weddings already have the lights and stuff. You know, their stages and things like that.
Sometimes you get these bands and you get a stripped down version, and what I mean by that is, you know, if they're in a club or doing a concert, you're going to get the full band, you know, the full price. But sometimes for weddings, they'll bring like 3 members out. So you're expecting the whole thing to come in and you get 3. And that you know, to me, that kind of, there's one band I could think of that I saw, actually left my wedding early because I knew they were playing at a wedding across town and hauled butt to get over there to see them. And I was so disappointed. It was like 3 dudes. I'm like, where's everybody else, you know?
Right, exactly. Well, let's switch gears. Let's talk about DJs. And I know you're going to be passionate about this one because you are a DJ.
Yes.
And for those of you that don't know, I have DJ'd before for many years. I actually have stepped in for Michael when he was sick.
Yep.
So I've had to it's hard to fill those shoes. Let me just tell you that from somebody who has the experience that he does. But let's talk about DJs. You know, let's talk about cost first.
Well, cost, and that's something that we've talked about a lot because, you know, I think we're very fairly priced, and I know guys are getting 3 times what I'm charging. So, you know, I feel like I'm one of the better guys in town, and I feel my price is good, and I kind of question some of these other things, but in general, you're going to pay less for a DJ than a band.
Yep, very true, very true. And something that I was actually thinking about a moment ago when we were talking about bands, and this also applies to DJs too, because a DJ is more of an expert when it comes to this, but it is actually the MC. You know, you need somebody who's going to be able to, you know, intro the wedding party into the reception and make this, you know, announcements for all the special dances, the cake cutting, the toasts. If you do the bouquet and garter, like we talked about in another episode recently, but you know, all those things, you need somebody who is comfortable on a microphone. And, you know, a lot of times that band, you just, I mean, they sing songs. They're not, you know, that's not what they do all the time like a DJ does.
They're pretty much not going to MC a wedding. And there's a lot that has to be said and done, like you just said, to make the night go smoothly. It really does, yeah.
Yep, definitely. So, you know, I know we talked about lights. Now, I know you personally as a DJ invest a lot of money in lights, and you keep up with that technology.
Yeah. You know, with my show, it's a dance floor lighting package, a haze machine that puts a light mist in the air and makes the lights look really cool. I'm also famous. I've got streamer launchers. I shoot streamers. I've got a money gun that shoots $100 bills that look like what they use in the rap videos and stuff. People go crazy. Inflatable guitars, any bubble machines, anything to be interactive and get the party going. Now, it sounds cheesy, but I can tell you on a Saturday night when the alcohol's kicked in, people think it's the best thing they've ever seen. I have never seen more people go crazy over a girl shooting a pink gun when the money comes out. When they realize it's not real money, that's the best part for me.
Oh yeah, and let me just tell you, I have videos and pictures of him shooting off these money guns, these bubbles. I mean, all kinds of, and it really adds to the pictures and to the videos.
It does.
You know, and again, it's just not something that you typically see a band do.
No.
So. You know, I know we kind of talked a little bit about this before, about bands, about song selection. So I know, you know, just for me personally, I mean, I have a huge music collections. I mean, we're talking like 80, 90,000 songs. Yeah. And, you know, there's all kinds of ways that DJs get music, you know, from there's radio edit versions, there's all kinds of different things that we belong to get, you know, the music, and that song selection is just huge because, I mean, I'm sure every Saturday night somebody's coming up to you asking you for something, you know?
Yeah, back in the old days when a bride wanted a special song, if I didn't have the CD, I'm going way back, I was kind of screwed, right? But now with the internet and tablets and Spotify, there's not a song I don't have, right? And another thing about DJ too is you got to be careful because we'll shift gears to cons now. We can talk about pros all night long. Unedited music. Now, to me, this is a big deal, okay? And especially these young guys, I think it's really cool to drop the F-bomb and all that. You got Meemaw sitting out there. You got 12-year-olds out there. You just don't need it, you know? And if I can't find an unedited version, I won't play it. There's too much good music out there, you know? When you start talking about Journey and Wild Cherry and the Commodores and groups like that have the test of time, you don't have to worry about their music, you know? So there's new stuff. And don't ever let a DJ play something off somebody's phone.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that either.
Oh, guys, we get this all the time. Hey, can you play this off YouTube? Can you play this off whatever?
And the third word's the F-bomb. I got burnt one night doing that.
Yeah, it just, you know, no. Guys, it really... I'm telling you, it also comes off on the venue too, because a lot of times guests think that the DJ also kind of belongs to the venue.
They think we're employed by the venue. They do.
Yep. And when you're playing some music like that, then it kind of turns off. Grandma thinks, oh man, this venue's horrible. I don't want to say something nice about this venue because they were playing all this cuss words and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we know a DJ company here locally that I'll be careful. They like to be the religious thing, right? And we kind of snuck in one of the receptions, and I think the third song I heard had the F-bomb in it. I'm like, wow, really? It's just, you don't need it, guys. And when I interview my DJ, I would say, hey, make sure you play radio edited music. Make sure you don't say anything profane on the microphone. And sometimes they spend too much time at the bar, because now with technology, I mean, think about it, guys. Back in the day, it was CDs, and you had to go from one song. You had to physically push buttons to change the song, or a record, or turntable. Now you turn your laptop on. Hell, I could leave, and nobody would know. So there's a lot of DJs now that become probably alcoholics. They sit at the bar because the computer's doing everything. So, you want a DJ that's going to be interactive and be attentive. And for God's sakes, don't sit on a bar stool.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
That drives me crazy.
How many times I have seen a DJ just sitting down. How can you be interactive? How can you have personality? How can you bring the party out there if you're sitting?
You can't do it. You lose all your energy. Now during cocktail hour, of course, take a look, because we are on our feet 5 or 6 hours on concrete, standing still, which is rough. Okay, but when it's showtime, you're getting paid a lot of money per hour. We make as much as freaking attorneys do sometimes, which is sad. But do your job. Stand up. Dress the part. Look the part, act the part, and then just make sure when you interview your DJs, you ask these questions.
Yep, and you're exactly right. You need to sit down. You need to make sure you get, do your homework. I
meet all my brides in person.
Yep.
Bride and grooms. We have 30 days out. We meet and lay the groundwork, and then I call them the week of the wedding to make sure nothing's changed. We can talk about that all night long. With COVID, there's so many things that were happening in the world. People got sick at the last minute. Had dads couldn't make their daughter's wedding. So a good DJ is going to be very in tune with what you need, and you're going to have constant. I mean, I get texts from my brides all the time, and I don't mind it. And they're paying me good money, and I need to pull this thing off flawlessly, so I don't mind that at all.
Yep, exactly. One thing I want to talk about is club remixes. Guys, here's the thing, right? We go to a wedding. We want to hear Journey. We want to hear,
the wobble,
classic, good dance music that typically you don't usually hear on the radio every day, right?
Exactly.
And we sure as heck don't want to see all this, the DJ behind there fist bumping and all this kind of craziness. We are out here to entertain you. We are not the center of attention.
No, and there's club DJs, and that's what they do, and there's wedding DJs, that's what they do. They don't mix. A club DJ, and I can't tell how many times I've snuck in on other people to watch, and they're doing these extended remixes of some 14-minute long song. People have the attention span of a gnat, and I find it's more fun for me to play the songs, and if nobody responds to it, I'll cut it short and throw the next song on. But to sit there and do that 128 or whatever beat per minute constantly, that'll give me a headache, man.
Yeah, and that brings up another good point. Is a DJ, versus a band? DJ's reading the crowd. Yeah. They're looking all the time. And like Michael said, if the song's not going over well, I mean, sometimes you think that this song's going to work, and sometimes it's just clear as the dance floor, or just just not what you thought it was. And so he switches the song. It's going to be a little bit harder for a band.
Band's got a playlist.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if it's not working, they got to go to number 5, whatever that is. So they've rehearsed. That's their list. Me, I can change it in a heartbeat. I can change gears. Because, when the alcohol kicks in, sometimes we get these bad country vibes. They wanted all these Hank Jr. and, David Allen Coe and all this stuff. That's okay with me. Mm-hmm. And the sing-alongs are big later in the evening. The Sweet Carolines, the Don't Stop Believing. Those are huge. Man, I Feel Like a Woman, Shania Twain. So a DJ can read that crowd, and if it works, and they're singing, or New York, if people are coming from up north. And in a moment, they can change the whole vibe of the event.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, guys, we have talked a lot about the pros and cons of a DJ and a band. So we hope that we have educated you. You got to hear some different stories from both of us here tonight. So definitely keep checking us out. It is the Calling All Brides podcast. I am Joe Cirillo.
DJ Michael.
All right, we'll see you next time.